that you sent everything to us, and everything you sent starts in March. However, now some emails between Hillary and General David Petraeus have emerged where they were actually discussing personnel and who to promote and who not to in January, 2 months earlier. So it's actually the Obama State Department that is now basically requesting Hillary to come clean. Did you or did you not send us all the emails?
You think this is ever going to end, Franklin?
Oh, it's going to go on for a while, but the impact of it got muted a whole lot by the McCarthy.
Well, Hillary's going to spin it politically, but it won't change the facts.
Spin it all
on the
you
ground.
want. The fact is,
she's lied multiple times.
Believe
Franklin, has she lied? Has she been wrong? How's that? I won't make you say she lied. Has she factually been wrong over multiple occasions?
I think she was factually wrong about the statement that everything had been turned over.
All right. On the deletions, the FBI has now apparently gotten into the original files, and they have now found some non-personal emails that were deleted. Will that be then a factual mistake?
If that proves to be the case.
By the way, the Platte River people, the little small company out there, has now stated that they were concerned that they were being asked to illegally delete and cover for emails that should have been turned over to Congress. These are her own people now.
Did they ever delete it? I thought they had a backup on it.
Apparently, well, that's another problem. None of those people had security clearances. That's actually a violation of law. That's actually what General Petraeus was drummed out of the military over. So Hillary turned over sensitive, classified emails to people without any security clearance. Then she turned over thumb drives to her lawyer, who, by the way, has no security clearance. That's another violation. Those are actually violations of federal law. So you're right, Franklin. On a political level, she may dump a couple. First off, she spent about $100,000 on the ad, which is not a big ad, and it may bolster her a little bit in her Democratic community. But the facts still are that she is either A, dishonest, or B, incompetent.
Well, let's put some context in this. You know, what doesn't get reported here is, for example,
the complete sentence of what he said.
While governor of Florida, it turns out Jeb Bush was using a private email server for his government business.
Is it illegal in Florida to do that?
Actually, it apparently is. Apparently, they were using the same thing in Wisconsin. Chris Christie's people were being, as you already know, with the Bridgegate stuff, were criticized for exactly the same thing.
That's something for the people in those states to deal with.
That's right. But the question is does it have legs, so to speak? And thus far, nobody's shown that it did.
For who? You mean Hillary's doesn't have legs?
It doesn't appear to be affecting anybody.
Bernie Sanders is doubling her into it now. Now this latest poll has come back up in Iowa apparently, but he's still beating her in New Hampshire. He had like a 13-point lead.
Nationwide, she has a 25-point lead.
Carly Fiorina is now beating her in multiple first-run states.
Carly Fiorina.
Trump is beating her. Jeb Bush is beating her.
Bernie's catching up with her with money right now.
Right. He had a huge fundraising month.
You guys just keep holding on to that dream.
He's your dream.
Yeah,
he's your nightmare.
He ought to be yours based upon everything that came out yesterday.
If Bernie's out,
he votes in line with the NRA.
What about Joe Biden?
I find it hard to believe still that he can prevail in the primary.
Well, he'll have a hard time because the New York Magazine is now reporting that Hillary's attack dog, who is David Brock, former conservative turned gay liberal now, apparently, has now said that he has been compiling files on Biden's ties to Wall Street, his reluctance to support the raid that killed Osama bin Laden, and his role in the Anita Hill saga, which goes back, 25 years? So basically, they've got a dirty tricks phone on.
If you run for office, and you've been in public life as long as he has, or Hillary Clinton has, or somebody, you're going to have a record.
But the point is, this is Hillary's people getting ready to drop a ton of dirt on Biden if he gets in.
I don't think that researching someone's record is dirt, number one.
All right, let me ask you a question.
I think people who run for office expect their records to be examined.
Well, let me ask you a question. We've talked a lot about the birther issues, and we've hung that around
Have we?
Donald Trump's neck. Well, nationally. Guess who started all of that? Hillary's people started all of that. The original lawsuit as to whether he was a U.S. citizen was filed by the former Deputy Attorney General of the state of Pennsylvania, elected Democrat, Hillary Clinton's campaign. He was the original attorney that filed the original lawsuit that started all of that.
How did you get that to Hillary Clinton because somebody was involved in her campaign?
He was the Deputy Attorney General of the state of Pennsylvania. That's not a low-level person.
How does that get her campaign being
because
the one
he
who
was
started
working
it?
on her campaign. He was a Democrat, state elected
Lots of people
Democratic
were working on her
campaign official,
campaign.
and he filed the original lawsuit. A lifelong elected Democrat.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. Whoop FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Check into cash. Need help paying for life's little emergencies? Get the cash you need today from your friends at Check into Cash.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
Get the cash you need now at Check into Cash. Visit checkintocash.com for the store near you.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Did you know that U.S. Money Shops cashes all checks, even the ones most check cashers reject? Tax refund checks, government checks, payroll checks, and many more. And when you cash a check with U.S. Money Shops, we'll give you 10% off your next purchase. At U.S. Money Shops, we have everything you need at a fraction of regular retail. So stop by one of our 11 locations or visit us online at usmoneyshops.com.
Buy or sell or apply today, the better way at U.S. Money Shops.
Some restrictions may apply. See store for details.
If you need a little green, Lending Frog is making deals. He'll lend you cash on any kind of wheels. Borrow just a little, or you can borrow big. Lending Frog is a new financial gig. It's hip to hop into cash. LendingFrog.com is making a splash. Dig it, dig it. Dig it, dig it.
This is Drew down at the Bald Headed Bistro. Come join the Bald Headed Bistro at the Block Party on October 31st, Halloween this year. We're going to be located at the Craig's Miles Hall. We're going to be serving some pulled pork barbecue, some Witch's Brew hot cocoa. Stop by and see Chef Eric. We'll see you on Halloween this year.
One day I'll cross over the Jordan and find my Savior waiting there for me. He'll take me down the streets of gold. Oh Lord, I've been told he's got a pretty mansion just for me. No, you won't need a real estate agent in heaven to help you find a place to call your own. 'Cause he'll prepare for you your own sweet home. Yes, when you're through the pearly gates and you see him face to face, now that's when you'll be home, sweet home. No, you won't need a real estate agent in heaven, but if you need one here in Cleveland, Tennessee, give me a call. Kathy Rosenberger, 476-5532. That's Kathy Rosenberger, 476-5532. Coldwell Banker Hamilton and Associates, each office independently owned and operated.
At Buy Here, Pay Here USA, we don't just sell cars, we buy them. Bring your car, truck, or SUV down to Buy Here, Pay Here USA, and we'll give you a free appraisal with no obligation. We pay top dollar for most cars, so before you trade in your vehicle, come see us for an appraisal. At Buy Here, Pay Here USA, we pay the most for your car. Visit Buy Here, Pay Here USA in Cleveland, Dayton, or Chattanooga, or go to buyheresellhere.com. That's buyheresellhere.com. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Train Endurance Engineers are an elite group of extremely devoted individuals who stop at nothing to push our heating and cooling units to the brink. That way, when they pick up the pieces, they'll know exactly how to make the Train we install in your home even more reliable. Right now, their target is a Train AC unit.
Test to control. Fire up the pitching machine.
Their methods may seem unconventional,
Okay, cue the jackhammers.
but it's because of their tireless efforts that it's hard to stop a Train.
When you want an unconventionally efficient heating and air unit that keeps your home right in the comfort zone day in and day out, nothing will do but a Train. To get the best Train service, call your local Train comfort specialist. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. Keeping you comfortable is Mechanical Systems' only business, and they've been providing high-quality service and installations for more than 30 years. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. That's 336-5739.
It's hard to stop a Train. Really hard.
235 years ago, Colonel Benjamin Cleveland, for whom our fair city is named, fought and won the Battle of Kings Mountain, the turning point of the Revolutionary War.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
San Francisco's last gun store just closed its door for good. Now, why do you think that a gun store, with gun sales being probably the best thing selling right now in any store, would close their doors?
Well, he says why he closed his doors. San Francisco has enacted local ordinances that he finally said this last one was the end, that he wasn't going to make his customers submit to it.
He was wanting to
videotape every transaction. And he just said, I'm not going to do it. It's a constitutionally protected right, and I'm not going to do that to my customers.
Mm-hmm. You know, while we were on break, you got to talking about some of these shootings and some of these things, you know, and Ben Carson made a comment. He's being criticized now for running as a group of the kids in the room. If they all ran towards the shooter, he wouldn't have been able to get them all. But anyway,
well, there's a young man that's amazingly survived being shot 7 times after charging the guy. He was a former serviceman, but here's the point: had he had a gun, he'd have stopped it. Mm-hmm. There was an Air Force retiree in another building that actually did have a gun, and the faculty wouldn't let him respond. Told him, no, just we've got security. They had one security guard that was not armed. Now, you got a mass shooter shooting people. What in the hell's the security guard going to do? Walk up and get shot?
And I'm going to ask this question. Franklin, do you think that people ought to be able to carry a weapon? Do you think we ought to get rid of gun-free zones?
I think there are some places that I prefer to be gun-free.
Like where?
Mass murder sites, because they've all been gun-free zones, every single one. Matter of fact, worldwide, since 2010, every mass murder worldwide has been at a gun-free zone.
What about when Gabby Giffords was shot at that?
It's a gun-free zone because of where she's at.
She was in a public shopping center.
Let me ask you a question,
really?
Franklin. Here's the point.
What state?
Let's make a moving half-mile radius around the president a gun-free zone, and then we can get rid of the Secret Service. Because gun-free zones work, right?
John, this is the approach that you guys always take to avoid dealing with common sense.
There is no common sense.
No, there is common sense.
I'll go through the facts with you.
There is common sense.
All
right, tell me the common sense.
Yeah, give us some common sense.
Nobody is proposing taking people's guns away from them. Number one.
Contrary
to what these...
Tell me something.
Are you going to let me talk, or are you going to be quiet
Let me give you one ground rule.
I'll just sit up
Give me one thing that would have stopped this shooting this past weekend.
That's the problem with your argument, John, is that you want to utilize this particular episode. No,
I want to utilize
facts. It's not that at all. What we think is that there are some common sense things we can do.
Like what?
That make things harder.
Like what?
You are correct when you've made the statement in the past that you're never going to be able to.
Is the assault weapons ban one of those common sense facts?
It depends on what you're talking about with that, John.
Well, explain it to me.
If you're talking about the size of the magazine that goes into the assault weapon, then yeah, I think there is some common sense.
All right, tell me how that's going to affect the murders.
What we think, John, is that it affects the ability or the likelihood of somebody being able to perpetrate mass killings.
Right.
Will they still be able to kill somebody? Of course.
All right, let me ask you a question, Frank. How many people are killed with all rifles? Not assault rifles, all rifles.
I don't know the answer to that.
You want the number? I mean, I know y'all don't like
First
facts.
of all, it depends on where you get the number.
Well, from the FBI's Uniform Crime Statistics.
First of all,
from the CDC.
I don't know if that tells you, because, you know, folks, this is what's interesting.
So, you know,
John is so confident.
I'm getting ready to give Franklin facts, and he's going to tell me why the facts
you're going to let me
good.
finish my statement.
Well, are you
just
are you saying the FBI is incompetent?
What I'm saying is that 7 years ago, the Republican Party led a charge to forbid the government from paying for research into these killings.
It was
so the statistics we
research
have
into
really
the
aren't
killings.
very
Research
good.
by the Health Institute.
He's so confident
Research by the medical
He's
doctors.
so confident of his argument that he forbids the government from keeping the statistics.
Do we need research?
Yeah, we do actually.
We forbade the CDC from doing it, not the FBI.
No.
FBI's done it for years, Franklin, and we've always used the FBI
and what
numbers.
they've said is their record keeping and the way they get the data from local law enforcement is completely unreliable.
All right, let me ask you a
That's
question.
what they
Who's
said.
in charge of the background checks? And who would be in charge of expanded background checks? I'm just going with your logic. Who?
Well, we'd have to.
Who would be in charge? The very same FBI you just said was incompetent and
I didn't say
keep
they
good
were
records.
incompetent.
You just said they
No,
don't keep
you're
good
just
records.
lying, John. I never
did
said
you
that.
just say they didn't
Can
keep good
you
records?
possibly tell the truth for one
I
moment?
am, Franklin. I'm simply
What I
using your
said
own words
was-
against you.
No, you're not. You're doing what you always do. You're making up words and then saying
Did
I
you
said
say
it.
the FBI didn't keep good records?
No, I didn't.
What'd you say?
I said the FBI says they can't rely on the data provided by local law
All right, but
enforcement.
where is all the data for the background check you want to expand going to come from?
Local law
Those
enforcement.
same groups. So what's the
So what you're saying
is the
is-
problem the law, or is the problem the government enforcing the law?
Are you saying that local law enforcement can't keep the data?
I'm saying that the problem is enforcement. Let's work on
The
that.
problem is
the problem
there
is the
isn't a
enforcement of
federal-
existing laws.
Let me ask a question.
Wait a minute, I didn't get to
I
my
wanna break-
facts. That's what Franklin does because he knew what's getting ready to happen to him.
No, what I'm saying is that I doubt you have a fact.
I have
You
FBI statistics.
You have a fuzzy
I have
number
FBI
pulled out of the NRA's
Franklin,
anus.
No, let me give you a little
Call it a
title.
fact.
Let me give you a title, Franklin. You go look this up. You're real good with your smartphone.
Thank
It's
you.
called
I
the
appreciate that.
FBI's Uniform Crime Statistics. They
familiar
put
with
it out every year.
That's
Now, it's
right,
usually 2 or 3 years behind because it takes them about 3 years to compile it.
Yeah.
So first off, the president was misleading when he said deaths because it's 33,000 is what he said. Well, when you pull suicides out, that's 21,000 of the 33.
So 12,000 people were murdered.
No, it's
last year?
actually
That's
when
your
you
argument?
no,
That's your number?
No, I'm going to go down from that. It's 13,164. I'm sorry, that's 10. In 11, it's 12,664 total. Out of that, 8,583 were firearm related. Okay, 8,500. Rifles. Now that's all rifles. That's bolt action hunting rifles. All rifles. You ready for this, Franklin? 323 murders out of 8,583 were rifles. All rifles. So when your side comes out and says, we have a massive problem and we need to ban assault rifles, even
I
if
didn't
you
say anything about banning them.
Well, you will.
No, I
That's
didn't.
what Hillary just
No,
proposed.
no,
that's what the Brady bill proposed. That's what Bill Clinton did in 1994.
This is where you get off in la la land.
Let's deal with the
Nobody
facts,
said
Franklin.
anything about this.
All right, let's say they're not, but we're going to pass an assault weapons. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know what you
I want to
call
know
it,
what
Franklin.
happens when you register a gun today.
Because for about 10 years they banned them. Your side banned them.
If I went up here to U.S. Money Shop and I want to buy a gun right now, I've got to fill out a loan
Well, now,
application,
wait a minute.
and I've got to go through a bunch of paperwork.
So we
God,
got
how
you all.
awful that must be.
The
for you.
president goes to assault
How
rifle.
awful.
He
no,
went
it's
to-
fine, but it's done.
Okay, what's the problem with that?
I'm asking you what the problem
The
is.
president went to assault rifle. Hillary went to assault rifle. The Democrats always go to assault rifle. All right, 323 murders. Shotguns accounted for 356 murders. Well, if we're going to deal with assault rifles, we've obviously got to deal with shotguns. Now, here's the really interesting one. Blunt objects amounted to 495. Well, if we need an assault rifle ban at 323, we obviously need a blunt object ban. Clubs and hammers. Oh, wait a minute. Personal weapons, including hands, fists, and feet, 728. That's twice the number killed with all rifles. Obviously, we've got to ban people's hands. Wait a minute. One more really good one. Knives are 1,694. By God, we've got to get rid of all the knives in society.
All right, let me go back to my original question. When I go up here, U.S. Money Shop, and buy a gun, I have to fill out paperwork, I have to have background check, and all this kind of stuff. Where does that go?
Goes to the FBI.
Okay. Now then, what do we need done besides that, Franklin? What's wrong?
Well, by the way, around 92% by nearly all CERT studies show 92% of all guns used in the commission of a crime are obtained through illegal means.
That's right.
So any kind of legal change you make will only affect 7 to 8% of gun purchases in crimes.
In Chicago, why don't they come down on the illegal guns? And
toughest gun laws in the nation in Chicago.
Why don't they go ahead and start confiscating the guns in Chicago? Illegal guns. They could do it, but the police aren't doing it.
Well, they do it when they catch them.
Well, by the way, Franklin,
how do you do that?
In Richmond, Virginia, there was a thing that the NRA actually supported and pushed called Project Exile. The U.S. attorney down there agreed that any crime committed with a gun, they would move away from any of the state charges, and all of the gun crimes would be prosecuted under federal law. Guess what happened to the gun crime rate in Richmond, Virginia under Project Exile? Saw about an 80% decrease in about a year and a half. 80% decrease.
When Rubio was
Vice President Biden was asked about the fact that they only prosecuted 2 people for lying on these federal forms out of something like 40,000. And he said, well, it's just too hard to prosecute.
Well, let's talk about, the president's fixing to visit this city.
They don't want him. By the way, the local newspapers said, we wish he wouldn't come because he's politicizing the event.
That's correct.
That's the local newspaper.
That's correct. And he very bluntly said it ought to be politicized. So that's his argument.
So
let's not act like there's some secret motive there.
Well,
he thinks it's an issue that ought to be part of the political
Why
process.
should it be publicized?
Politicized.
Because he thinks we ought to attempt to address the issue, and that's how we address things politically.
Wait a minute. Is this guy that came in and did the shooting, what's his background? No, let's talk about the ones that do the shooting. Why aren't we investigating them and coming out with something about them?
The only thing that I know for sure, because we don't have full data yet, is that he apparently has some form of
jihad.
No, he's an American.
I know, but I mean, no, his website. I've already seen it.
No. Said he's somewhere in the. I don't want to attribute this to other people, but this is what's been reported so far, that he's somewhere on the autism spectrum. He's had some mental health issues.
Oh, he's mentally. So, what's happened?
But no, he's not a Muslim, if that's what you're talking about.
I think
actually the Russian security service, it's been reported on EU, one of the EU newspapers, that the Russian security people identified him as a ISIS-backed person and notified the U.S. State Department, and nothing was done. And ISIS has now these things are hard to verify, but ISIS in some areas has actually claimed responsibility for this.
Well, let me say this. It just seems like every time our president gets in trouble, there's another mass shooting.
What's he in trouble for?
Well, how about letting Russia come in and take over, making him look...
Your candidate says that's a good idea. What are you talking about?
That's not my candidate.
Well, it's his.
Oh, well.
He's a Donald Trump supporter.
But what I'm
that's
trying...
Donald Trump says that's what we should do.
No, wait a minute.
Are you for it or against it?
Well, do you
Make up your mind.
Well, do you think Obama's in trouble over the way he's handled the foreign affairs over there?
No,
I
don't.
You think he's in trouble with Russia?
No.
You think everything's just rosy?
Well, by the way, we've now found out that this incursion into Syria was planned months ago.
What I'm trying to say is, every time there's the headlines are about Obama, something happens to change the headlines. It's weird to me. I'm telling you, it's weird.
Who do you think right now the Sunni extremists in Syria are starting to hate more? The Russian troops that are coming in
this
there?
This is always amazing to me.
No, it's a fair question.
Look, even liberals agree that the Mideast is a foreign policy disaster. And when someone so blindly protective of an incompetent president
I'm not
tries to
blindly
say
I'm asking
the
an
fact
honest
that
question,
they invaded Syria
and I wish to God your
eventually...
party had asked the questions 25 years ago.
Let me put it in context. George Will said it really well. If you believe, like the president does, that history is on your side, you don't have to do anything because history will finally come around. So even though we've had dictators control nations since the beginning of man's time on earth, somehow in the next couple of years, according to Obama, dictators are going to go away. So he doesn't have to do anything.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
You like history. Let's talk about history.
All right.
Okay. Who armed the Taliban?
We did.
We did. We gave them their guns and helped promote them as a military force.
Okay.
Why? Because we thought it was in our best interest for them to be fighting the Soviets.
Okay.
Okay? The Russians. So.
Fighting who?
The Soviet Union when they invaded Afghanistan.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great. We kicked them out. The Taliban took over. That's the people we supported. We then began to oppose the Taliban.
Why?
Well, because we didn't like the way they treated their people. They weren't democratic.
Oh, they were killing them.
And what happened then?
What?
The rise of Al-Qaeda.
Mm-hmm. Then what happened?
They attacked us. Now, the people we created attacked us. Now, which policy was the correct one? Helping them? Or getting involved in that morass over there? When we kicked out Saddam Hussein, who we created, we're the ones who installed Saddam Hussein.
Well, frankly,
no, we did.
There are
we
bigger
did.
issues.
And guess
here.
what else? Guess what else we did?
What?
We backed Saddam Hussein in the war with Iran that resulted in something on the order of 1 million deaths between Iraq and Iran. Okay? And we're surprised that the Iranians don't like us.
Actually,
so
Franklin,
my question,
hold on one second, Franklin. They kidnapped our embassy staff 10 years before that war. 10 years before that war. The theocracy took effect in 1979, 10 years before that Hussein-Iraq war. You just conflated the two together without mentioning, by the way, they had hated us for a decade before.
That's right. And why is that, John?
Because they hate America, they hate Christians. This is the battle between Islam and Western civilization.
Why did they hate us before that?
Because
we kicked out their
Franklin, listen to me real close. I know this is going to be
the Shah of Iran.
Franklin,
my point is that nobody wants to look at the reality of how these things happen, and they all want short-term.
Franklin, let me give you a reality you progressives don't want to face. The reason they hate us is they are an Islamic theocracy that believes in a worldwide caliphate, and anything that stands in the way of a worldwide caliphate is evil. So Israel is little Satan, United States is big Satan, which is what they were calling us 10 years before we backed Saddam Hussein in that war.
They weren't calling us that in 1960.
Because we had actually a secular dictator that we supported, and your guy, Jimmy Carter, threw him under the bus in the 1970s.
What? So you think we should have invaded Iran then to prop up the Shah of Iran?
We could have propped him up without doing anything. Jimmy Carter allowed him to be overthrown with no support, which is really very similar to what your guy's trying to do to Israel right now.
That's the point right there. And I will give John credit for that, because that is the philosophical difference.
We've had a history lesson.
He thinks that we should back up these dictators, even though that's what's creating the hatred for us.
I think we should. Well, first off, Franklin,
it's true.
Your guy's been in 7 years. They hate us more now than they did when Bush was in.
I don't know if that's true.
Your guy claimed he was going to have Kumbaya being sung at the United Nations every week. And we've been under his rule for 7 years, and we're more hated now than we ever were.
We didn't have any we didn't have the crazy shootings going on back then, did we? Where they came in and start shooting.
Where?
Well, we have ISIS now purely because of the vacuum that Obama created by pulling out. He's got one of his own actual still on duty generals now begging him not to pull everybody out of Afghanistan for the same reason. Just this week, one of his commanding generals said, please leave some anti-terrorist forces in Afghanistan so we don't create the same vacuum. But once again, this president believes history's on his side. So he doesn't have to use common sense.
It's not a question of history being on his side.
He says it all the time. He says, my opponents are on the wrong side of history.
It's a question of what is in the long-term interest of the nation.
Well, frankly...
No, and that's a debate we ought to be having, but unfortunately your party's incapable of it.
Let me explain this to you. You can't have a debate with your side when your president, when your leader says things like...
you can't have a debate when your only argument is
my opponents are on the wrong side of history.
We've been at war with them for 16 years.
My opponents are on the wrong side of the history is an ended discussion statement. So the leader of the free world, who should be facilitating open discussion, always shuts discussion down by vilifying anybody that disagrees with him.
The president who has killed more Muslims than anybody in the history of the world is weak in his foreign policy involving Muslims, according to you.
He is weak.
That's the crazy
look, you can't argue this point anymore. He is weak in every sense of the word.
Yes, I can.
He is weak in every sense of the word. Google, there's a really interesting photo montage of President Putin meeting all these world leaders and President Obama meeting all the same world leaders. And in every photo, Putin is standing straight up, shoulders back, looking them in the eye, shaking their hand. In every picture of Obama, he's bowed over with his head down.
Do we still have a caller? We had a caller on. I couldn't break it.
I want to come in here and says debate time's over. We need to take the Donald Trump approach and just go at it full action and quit doing the regular politics as usual. Republican, Democrats, they're both wrong. And you need a Washington outsider to come in to really get a better perspective and take action. This debate is not going to do anything. Now, both Bush and Obama have made a lot of mistakes. And it's time for somebody from the outside to come in and just take care of business and clear house.
Well, who are you for?
This debate stuff has got to stop because it's getting us nowhere until we get a handle on saying no to Sharia law.
I agree.
And no to those radical dictators and showing them who is going to be on their people's side. They're not on their people's side. How is it that the Sharia law and people that are living in these countries have it so great when they're ISIS and all these other people are just taking them down? We're not doing anything. We're doing the old same Vietnam conflict tactics, and so that's not working and it's never worked, and we just need common sense.
I don't disagree. We need someone from the outside. I don't think Donald Trump's the right one. I think someone like Carly Fiorina or someone like that.
I think Donald Trump is.
Take brass tacks action, and I don't care what people say. I say Donald Trump, Ben Carson ticket.
I like Ben. I like Carly.
I get, but well.
My problem with Donald Trump is he's been all over the place, and he's been the exact opposite of what he's saying he is now. That's what worries me. Not that I disagree with what he's saying now. I'm just not sure I trust what he's saying now.
Hello. All right, our caller was through.
But your caller's right. You know, we've got to have someone to take some decisive action.
I agree.
And quit with this political correct. But you've got the president playing, like when he talks, this all started over gun violence. The president talked about, we are the leading highest number in the country. Well, that's a really interesting thing. We are also 350 million people. We're nowhere near the top when you do it on a per capita basis. We have about 3 murders per 100,000 residents. Honduras has 68 murders per 100,000. Honduras only has about 6 firearms per 100 residents, but they have 68 murders per 100,000.
I'm sure record keeping in
El Salvador, Jamaica,
crackerjack.
Well, in France, for example, applicants for a gun license have to take lessons for 6 months. They have to be in a club, the official French Federation of Shooting. They have a vigorous police background check. The license is in effect for only 5 years, and the weapons must be stored in a locked, supervised storage. And yet, you had a shooter on a train try to kill people.
You have to be able to use a gun.
By the way, Hillary's big proposal she put out yesterday, it's full of things that are already in the federal law.
It's full of things that are
They're
supported by
law.
that are supported by 70% of Republicans.
She talks about getting rid of straw purchase.
But John thinks it's radical left wing.
Listen, Franklin. Now you defend this. This is her own proposal. It's a bullet point. make straw purchasing a federal crime. Well, let me read it to you. It has been a federal felony for decades. Violators face a sentence of up to 10 years in federal prison and a $250,000 fine for each violation. That's federal law on the books for decades. And yet she puts out a proposal that says we need to make that federal law. So, Franklin, is she incompetent about the existing current federal law, or is she a demagogue?
Define what straw purchases are. Having somebody buy it for
Having
you?
someone buy a gun in their name and handing it off or selling it to someone else. That's a straw purchase.
Okay.
It's already against federal law, and she either doesn't know it or she's simply playing politics. Matter of fact, less than a year ago, she actually went on the record and said she thought New York law was sufficient and it worked in New York, but she was against any federal law mandating gun control because she thought it should be handled on a state-by-state basis. That was her position just a year ago.
It's changed, huh?
Apparently.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, or we're out of time. So
by the way, there was a guy that could have stopped that killer in Utah or in Oregon. He had a gun. Faculty on staff told him not to go. Now you think about that. Wouldn't let him respond.
No comment. What about it, Franklin? Any
I
comment?
haven't read the story. I'm not going to comment about things I'm ignorant about.
Roseburg, Oregon. Is today the day that Obama's supposed to visit?
I think it's the end of the week, and they don't want him there.
I know. I saw that. You know, it's pretty weak when you're...
Are you sure the families don't want him there?
The family of the little
talking?
girl that got shot said, the mother said, my daughter should have been able to have a gun to protect herself. The boy that got shot, that watched him execute people, said he would have stopped. This guy, when he was executing people, he actually stopped in front of the class and reloaded his gun while he talked to them. Franklin, look, I know you're not a gun person. I am a gun person, and this will get me in trouble.
You don't know anything about.
Well, I'm assuming you're not a gun person. You're not. Well, put it this way: you're not a crazy gun person like me.
What's the definition of a gun person? Do you own guns? Is that what it means?
No, it's not. It's someone,
I think he just said
that vigorously supports the Second Amendment.
Person like him.
Well, let me put what I was going to say. And this kind of statement gets you in trouble, but it's the God's honest truth. If I'm sitting in that room and I've got a gun on my side and I watch him shoot the first person, I'm not going to ask him to stop. I'm not going to say, hold on. I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to shoot him and I'm going to try and kill him.
That's right.
Simple as that.
Would you do that, Franklin?
I hope I would.
Well, unlike good if you don't have a gun.
Unlike a lot of folks, though, I candidly admit that I've never been in that kind of circumstance, and I don't know how I would react. I know how I hope I would react, but I don't know that that's always true.
Now, I will give it to you that I grew up my whole life hunting. And when you're hunting, you learn to instinctively shoot. And I guess what I'm saying is I agree with Franklin. I hate to say 100%, but I will tell you I am 99.99% sure I would shoot him as fast as I could. And I wouldn't, and I'll say this, and this will get me in trouble. I wouldn't lose any sleep about it the rest of my life.
Well, I know I grew up during Vietnam and went basic training and served in the military. Luckily, I didn't go to Vietnam, but I promise you, I was ready to shoot.
But you got comfortable with firearms.
I did.
Well, the boy that got shot 7 times rushed him with no gun. If he had a gun, he'd have stopped it.
That's right.
So if the president really wants to have a discussion on this, what he'd want to know is, matter of fact, Utah, for example, 10 years ago, they licensed and put a program in place for teachers to carry guns in the classroom. In 10 years, they've had no fatal shootings in any school.
All right. In the morning, Mark in the morning is doing his marathon. 30 hours, is that what it is this year? 30-hour marathon starting in the morning on the Mark in the Morning show to raise money for Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So be sure to tune in and make Mark a pledge and help him raise the money. And good cause.
Tune in and send in a donation. It's a wonderful cause, and I appreciate him doing that.
Yep. Anyway, it's a lot of work. Mark, good luck to you, buddy. I'll send some coffee your way. Bye-bye. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop FM at noon today and every